So today what we're going to do is change the head gasket and do a few other little things on a FarmPro 2425 3-cylinder diesel tractor. This is a Genma Series 200 tractor, Chinese, from the Yangdong manufacturing company in China. So really easy machine to work on. Just need a garage or a place to get busy. It's all metric on the bolts and everything. So I'm gonna just get started here. So the first thing you're gonna want to do is decide if you want to remove the hood or not. I'm gonna leave the hood on. You've got to first take this little electrical mounting hardware off. Then we're going to remove the valve cover. We're going to, you have to decide if you want to take the exhaust off. You'll have to take the fuel lines off here and the intake on the other side if you choose to do that. Last night I went ahead and did drain the radiator fluid. There's a little shut off down here on the radiator just because I didn't want all of this to spill out, because radiator fluid is a little pricey nowadays. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how things are going throughout the process. So we've got the fuel lines disconnected here, and then down here we've got these. We went ahead and disconnected the radiator hose, the bypass hose there, and you'll need to disconnect the fuel filter from the mount over here. So the next thing we're going to do is disconnect the rocker arm assembly. Just keep a kind of close eye how it was before you put it on. There's 3 bolts right here, and then these 3 bolts right here will come off. This will just raise straight up. And I left the hood on, but I've already bumped my head about 3 times, so you might want to consider that. I'm actually going to leave the exhaust assembly on because I don't have help with me today. It's going to give me a little bit more leverage to lift the head straight off. I'm actually leaving on the intake as well. Obviously I removed the blow-by tubes, and we've taken off the valve cover. The valve cover seal is a new one I'd already put on because it was leaking some oil, so that one's in good shape. We're leaving that. So the next update we'll see, we'll have the rocker arm assembly off, and hopefully the head will come off here shortly. So we've got the rocker arm assembly removed, and we also removed these push rods. And I want to show you something else that I've done which is helpful. I just got an old box here, and I'm putting everything on top of this box in the same orientation that it comes off from the tractor, just so you can put everything back in. Sometimes these parts, when you put them all back together, they like to be put back together the same way that they were before, obviously, but there's a few nuances with, you know, screw holes and that kind of stuff. So just do it like that. That way you've got everything. It's keeping it clean, everything off the floor. And then when we get our head bolts off, we'll put them in on the box as well. See which ones we're gonna want to reuse. Some of them we'll be able to reuse, some of them we won't. Ideally, you just want to go ahead and put all new head bolts in at the same time. But in this particular tractor, I know that these bolts are new because I put them in. We just have one bolt over here. This is a bad bolt. It would not receive the threads. The threads inside the block were stripped. Thankfully the bolt didn't break off, but we're going to remove the head. We're going to have to drill out the hole, put a helicoil in, put the head back on, tighten it down. Hopefully the head gasket is okay, but I am going to go ahead and replace it with the new head gasket, even though it's a brand new head gasket. So what you'll see here are the head bolts. There's 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, yeah, there's 8 of them. In order to access these head bolts, in case you ever needed to retorque the head, which is suggested at 100 hours, or if you started seeing leaking of the head, because sometimes you just need to tighten these bolts. but you have the 2 up here, 2 here, 2 here, and 2 back here. We'll show you the sequence that we're going to do when we retighten them, but just wanted you to see where these head bolts are. Obviously you can't get to these head bolts here without removing the rocker arm assembly, which takes literally about 2 minutes to remove. So next step is removing these head bolts or cylinder bolts, however you want to call them. Then we'll pull the head off and go from there. So we got the head bolts off, and I've got some able-bodied helpers here, my kids, and so we're just going to lift this head off and set it over here on a safe surface. We just got a cardboard box, a couple of them there. You definitely don't want to scratch the underside of the head, so we're going to do that real carefully. And this one probably will help me film. Up. We're going up, we're going up. Let's move that over. All right, you're gonna have to run over there, Janet, and grab that. It's very heavy. Very deceiving, you got it? I'm gonna let go. 1, 2, 3. It's all you guys. Coming over. All right. So much easier with good help. All right, and I got the best help in this garage at this time. All right, so what we got now is we've got our head gasket, we've got our pistons. These are actually new cylinder sleeves and new pistons. So we're gonna pop this head gasket off and put a new one on here in a little bit. But first what we're gonna do is, after we take this head gasket off, I'm going to tape off these cylinders because we're going to have to drill out this hole right there, as it has gotten damaged. Hopefully we can repair it. If not, we'll be looking at the issue maybe being the block, but I think at this time we'll be able to repair it and go from there. Okay, so we've got our new head gasket on. We have rethreaded our damaged hole there for our head bolts, and we've already gone ahead and made sure all of our cylinder head bolts are going in there. We've got our back side here, or the underneath side of the head cleaned up, and now we're ready to sit it back down. So what we got now, we've got our head bolts in. We've got them finger tightened in, and then we're going to torque them according to the torque sequence. So basically you're kind of tightening from the center out. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll get all 8. We're going to torque it down to about 90. Then we're going to go back through the sequence, back up to about 95 to 98. Then the specs call for a torque range between 96 and about 104. So ideally I'm going to probably get to about 100. This is a little older engine. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm trying to get it super torqued out because with time these threads, just like what we were dealing with over here, if there was any leak or a head gasket issue or an overheating or any kind of water that was getting down in the holes, those cylinder bolt holes can kind of get corroded, and it'll make it harder for these cylinder bolts to take. So that's what we're doing now. We'll finish torquing it up, put the rocker assembly back on, put the injectors, the fuel lines back on, and we'll fire up and see how we did. So we got the head gasket back on, we got the valve cover back on, we're hooking up the fuel lines, and that's all she wrote. Put a new thermostat in, as the old one wasn't working. Had to come up with a little configuration there, make it work. We're hoping hoping that will work. But that's basically a head gasket replacement in a nutshell, with the added issue with rethreading a hole. We'll see if it starts up tomorrow, because we got some gaskets that we've repaired at the back that we got to let dry, and we'll go from there.